Hi, my name's Clint Adams. I've been doing the push-up challenge to raise awareness for mental health, and I thought instead of just doing some push-ups and making people aware, obviously, about mental health, I thought I'd do some videos just to give people assistance to improve on resilience and their own mental health. There's a number of different things there that we can do. My background is in psychology. I've worked for Victoria Police as a police officer. I've been a counsellor for the police and outside of the police. And over the last 25 years, I've also worked as a HR or people and culture manager for a number of different organisations. And, no matter where I've been, people have similar issues. We employ the whole person when you're an employer. And as a result, we want to try and, or I've always wanted to try and really see different ways I could help people to, look after themselves in a better way, understand their bodies and how their brain interactions work a lot better, so that can just follow on into their personal lives as well as obviously be more effective at work. So, part of what I guess I've done over the years is really focus a bit on trying to keep it simple, trying to make it practical, giving people practical advice to be able to do stuff and not have to go and see a counsellor. I'm not saying don't go see a counsellor if you're suffering from anything that needs it, but it's very difficult, price-wise and timing-wise to get in. So in the meantime, what do? You sit and do nothing? Well, that's not kind of what I want to be about, and part of this process is about helping people to do that. I have written books and been on podcasts and stuff like that in the past, but this is just another way to kind of bring that, not just awareness, but bring some tips and things into it. And I guess the key part of, if you want to put it into perspective, is really understanding a bit about how your brain works, and when you are getting into a state of mental illness, if you like, or you're getting stuck in some kind of mental pattern that's not very good for you or very healthy for you, that you can understand things you can do to try and break that pattern. So I guess to put it into perspective, I'll focus on just two parts of the brain. One's the prefrontal cortex, which is that big meaty part on the top of our brains. And the reason that's so very important is it's very much about the social aspect of what we as humans are. If we look at other animals, higher primates, they all have what they call the prefrontal cortex. And I refer to it as blue brain, just easier to remember. People can, refer to it as blue brain, right? Think about what part of the brain they're talking about. But essentially, the animals that have this work together, they look after their young, they interact together and all that kind of stuff. So really important, they get support from that. Whereas as we move down the food chain, say we get into lizards and reptiles and that kind of stuff, they don't have any of that. So they just let their young go, they don't look after them, they don't work together. They're very much all about themselves. And obviously we have this part of the brain too. So their natural instinct is that fight or flight. If I feel there's danger, I'll either fight or I'll flight or leave. So, we have that as well as part of our brain. I call that red brain, which is the amygdala. We all heard of our fight or flight reflexes. I refer to it as red brain. So we can fight or flight. So, what you essentially see in our human behaviours when we feel threatened in any way, that's the part that gets stimulated first, and it gets us ready to either have that fight or move out of danger's way or potential danger's way. And that usually serves us pretty well, right, for most part. So, we kind of should only be using that red brain to get yourself out of harm's way. Then we calm down and the threat's gone and we feel better about life. But sometimes what we can do as human beings is we can overthink some of that and we can stay in that red brain state. So instead of it just being there to help you get out of harm's way, we can sometimes come up with things that cause us perceived harm. And that can then stimulate the red brain over and over and over. It's a bit like having a fire alarm that just keeps going on all the time, even though there's no fire. And so you respond in that way every time, and your body has a lot of things going. So understanding how that pattern works. The reason I mentioned blue brain first is blue brain's the part of the brain that's very social. It's also the part where we do our problem solving. It's also where we do our innovative thinking. So when you think of it in terms of red brain, if I'm in red brain, I'm feeling threatened in some way, or I've had trauma as a child and it's made me feel unsafe, that little red brain's going constantly. I'm not using my blue brain as effectively as I should be. And what also happens when you go into red brain is the blood drains from your brain into your body, getting ready for fight or flight, getting your muscles ready for that. So you don't even have a fully oxygenated brain when you stay in red. So the key part about this, and even as a counsellor when I was working with people, is getting them to focus on ways that they can move into a blue brain state. So if you feel like you are, angry or feeling sad or a number of things that has a threatening component to it, then it's about understanding that you want to switch your focus from that red brain response into blue. And a number of ways you can do those things. So understanding that's what you want to do, like even people who do thoughts diaries or journaling or, reflecting on what they have to be grateful for. You heard of gratitude and how gratitude can help you. The reason it helps you is it makes you use your blue brain, because that's the reflective part of your brain. So when you're thinking about things that you could be grateful for, it forces the blue brain to be used. So moving out of red into blue is definitely something that you want to try and work on. If you are feeling like you're stuck, you're kind of going, what are the ways I can get myself out of this and focus on a solution rather than go, oh damn, everything's going wrong. So when you're focusing on red and you're saying those things in your head, that internal dialogue we have with ourselves can sometimes drive us back into a red state. And so we stay there, we don't get out of that at all. So really understanding that when we are there, just take the time to stop, take the time to think and assess, and you're actually using your blue brain by doing that automatically. So you're actually reversing a bit of the gears by actually forcing yourself to use your blue. The blood's now starting to pump back up in that big meaty part of your brain because you need more blood up there to access that part. So doing a number of things on a physiological level, but then also on a psychological level, it's made you change your shift, change where you're focusing, and where you focus is where you end up going. So really important. If you're focusing on red, you're going to keep going down there and you're not going to break a pattern. If you try to focus and at least interrupt that red process, it doesn't become a pattern for you, and now you start to replace it with things that are blue brain experiences. There's lots of different blue brain experiences that people talk about: getting good sleep, going out in nature, interacting with others, being around people is very important. A lot of people say, oh, I'm a bit of a loner, I don't want to be around people, but we're not actually built for that. We want to interact with people when we do. Yes, you want your own time at some point, obviously, but for the most part of our lives, we want to be surrounded by people that, give us encouragement, people that are there to support us. And, life's tough. A lot of things can happen. We've got family members that get sick, family members that get old and die. And these are just the realities of life. So we can't ever stop things happening, but we can kind of work on how we, find the right thing or something that's, beneficial for us out of that bad experience. What can I learn from this? When you ask yourself those sorts of questions, like how can I learn from this experience, even though something bad might happen? When you do that and actually ask your brain that, your blue brain's the brain that's responding, because the red doesn't have anything like language. It just responds automatically, whereas blue, you start to listen, you start to think, you do that reflection piece, and then if you wrote things down and did things like that, again, blue brain experiences. Even having things like taking your dog for a walk, it's a blue brain experience. You see the dog, you feel happy. Some people go, yeah, when they see a dog walking down the street, because, gives you a good feeling. And so it's a number of blue brain experiences that you can put in place. But blue brain experiences are different for different people, depending on their upbringing. Some people hate dogs, so they're not going to get a blue brain experience out of that. They might actually get really scared and be a completely red brain response. So understanding yourself, understanding what gets you into blue brain is going to be a key part of any activity that's going to help you if you are stuck, or if you just want to build on your resilience and you're not actually feeling stuck. It's a bit like fitness. You don't have to only want to do fitness things or physical fitness things when you're unfit. If you're already fit and you did more and you just keep it up, you're more likely to be able to take some of those knocks. And same mentally, like if you're using that part of the brain and, you're feeling like on top of the world, how can you, like they say, if you don't use it, you lose it type of stuff. So a really important part of this is understanding just how that dynamic of red brain, blue brain works, and thinking of ways that you can get yourself into the blue brain space. I'll hopefully do another one of these in the not too distant future, and we can do a little bit of a series and a few other things. Thank you.